Perfect. Thank you, David, and thanks for allowing us to be here again. My name is Bruce Evans from Emsi. My colleague, Mark Hanson, recently joined Emsi from United Health Group. He was a client, and he liked the company so much he bought it. Well, he didn't actually buy it, but he came to work with us. So excited to have Mark here, excited to talk about labor market analytics for a little bit here. There we go. So who's Emsi? Emsi is a labor market analytics firm. We find the best data about jobs in the economy, and we try to make it useful for you. Definitely some lag here. This is where we work. There was a little survey in the PAFOW app, how far did you travel? So I looked it up. If I had walked, it was 34 days. We're about 2,400 miles away in the Palouse region of Idaho. A couple hundred of us, data scientists, labor economists, who work out in these wheat fields doing what we do, which is putting together labor market data. I think one of the things that's unique about Emsi is we're both a vendor in this space, but we're also work really hard to be a thought leader in a missional company. We're actually owned by a nonprofit who works in the education space, and so we're very much driven by the idea that data can make a real impact on what's happening in our economy and connecting individuals and companies and the education system. And that as Emsi works with all of those markets, we can really make a difference. So one of the things you're going to see from us is a lot of thought leadership and research. This is a big piece we did with Wall Street Journal on where college graduates move after college. There's another one really relevant to what we've been talking about today around robot ready. How do we see jobs changing as work changes, as the robots come in, as the skill sets they need change. So a big research piece that we did on those. Just an idea of how we want to work in the market, both as a provider, but also as a thought leader. So really, what do we mean when we say we're a provider of external labor market data? That's really the foundation of what we do. And to do that, we're bringing 4 sets of data together and putting them together so people analytics, talent acquisition teams can understand what's happening in the broader market. The first of those is what we would call traditional labor market data. We take about 90 sets of data from the government. We smash them all together every quarter to make them easy to understand and to bring them up to date. And we use that as a foundation to understand, hey, there's 160-ish million jobs in America, down to the zip code level. What jobs are those people working in? How much money do they make? What industries do they work in? What that data is great for is the breadth. What it lacks at times is details. So to solve that, we bring in a couple other sets. One is job posting analytics, so scraping job postings across the web every night. Again, doing all the work to put them into taxonomies and libraries and make them usable. That gives us detail about what's going on in a competitive part of the environment. And then we do the same thing looking at people's profiles. So wherever people are putting online about their work, we're going to take that and layer that in with that government data for the same reason, because it tells us a story about details, about skills, about companies, about where they went to school, all of those things that can help fill in on the government data. And then finally, we take all 3 of those sets and produce our own compensation data set. So when we say Emsi is a labor market provider, that's what we mean. We're going to take all of those sets and put them together so that anyone who needs to understand what's happening in the broader markets can come in and quickly understand that. And then finally, and this is what we're going to spend a good chunk of our time talking about today, is skills. And in a minute, Mark's going to talk about how Emsi is working in skills. So the way we've traditionally worked with folks as a vendor is people analytics teams subscribing to our software. What are they looking to Emsi for? Largely, it's they want to understand talent supply across markets. So, hey, I need to add 500 call center headcount. I'm looking at 5 different markets. Which one has the best supply? Which one has the most intense competition? How much do I need to pay? Those kind of base core questions are central to what we provide. Of course, compensation is always a big part of that. Hey, how are we performing in this market? If we move to another market, what's the low-cost market? So folks are looking to us for compensation data. They're definitely looking to us for competitive research. If we go into this market, who are we going against there? How does our employment brand stack up against the incumbents of the market? And then another large sector and a heavy use case we see is we, in our data on the labor market, have very detailed diversity data about the workforce. So again, based on government data sets, so we know we're covering every job. We're not relying on algorithms around names. We know, and so we can give very detailed data on the race, ethnicity, age, and gender of the workforce. So if you work with D&I initiatives, this is great benchmarking data to understand how are we performing in any given market. And then I think a final hallmark, one of the things we hear from our clients a lot is that, hey, we're going to take your data and I'm going to stand in front of our C-suite or in front of executives in our company. I need to be able to defend it. I need to know where this data came from. So one of Emsi's hallmarks is data source transparency. For everything you see from our data sets, we're going to tell you where it came from so that you can stand with confidence and understand what story am I telling, what's the credibility of this data. How do clients work with us? A variety of ways. Most people analytics teams start with just a subscription to our software where they can run these kind of queries ad hoc, and that's from Fortune 5 down to say a regional health system, folks using our software. I'd say increasingly the fastest growing way we work with clients is via APIs. And what's happened typically there, one of the great questions was like, how do we look at vendors? How do we choose a vendor? I think as a vendor, one of the things we love to look at is who can we partner with? We're always looking to see who's got questions that we think we can actually really help answer and have an impact on their org. APIs are a fantastic way to do that because they move our data from, hey, it's a place I go and I query something to, hey, we've got data flowing throughout the organization in every Tableau dashboard within their Bullhorn application, et cetera. So APIs are a huge way. And also consulting. We had folks back last week sitting at this C-suite of a Fortune 50 company who's making major site decisions. And so we have a consulting arm to work with them as well. With that, I'm going to hand it to Mark as we talk and unpack where we're moving, which is this whole idea around skills.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so at Emsi, we're excited. This is where a big chunk of our research has gone into the last couple of years is around the idea of skills and how are we pulling those together and how are we utilizing tapping the labor market. And really, we see this as the dynamic relationship between jobs, people, and education. And this is the language that it's there.
It's the green one here.
So yeah, why skills? You've seen this analogy used a lot, that skills is the currency of the labor market. We truly believe that, and one of the ways that we're trying to make that better is through an easy way to convert that language, because we all know that businesses are looking to hire skilled employees. Universities and colleges are looking to train up the right skills that the labor market wants, and job seekers are trying to advertise the right skills that they have. And so Emsi Skills in this new platform is really becoming that shared language of how do we efficiently convert that currency and match job seekers and employers efficiently. So real quick, I want to talk about our approach because it's very different than other skills platforms that you may have seen out there. Many take a strong taxonomy approach where it's very structured. You're trying to fit everything into a little box. Emsi took a very different approach, more of that ontological research, and we built it into an organic bottom-up where we pulled the data down from about 100 million resumes and public profiles and resume data, and we layered that in with all of our job posting data that we scrape every night. And so we have millions of data points where what are employers asking for, what are people advertising. So what ends up emerging in the market as we build this library of skills is a very adaptive approach to analyzing skills. And we're looking at the network and how they're all related to one another. So some heavy data science went into this work, and we're happy to employ a bunch of very smart scientists to put this together. So as you see our skills map as it came out and we started doing factor analysis and some deeper dives into this data, natural clusters started to form where skills are related to one another, and we're able to see definitions of those groups and defining what those roles would be for those combinations of skills versus trying to fit that into a rigid taxonomy. So again, you can see in a normal taxonomy, like an SOC code sort of system, a typical government system or an ONET system, you have these categories that things are Related that way, we're trying to categorize things in natural clusters and see how they shift and move within the marketplace. And this allows us to have overlap. Everyone knows soft skills overlap, and this allows our taxonomy to get away from that taxonomy approach and really get to this true essence of how our skills are mixed together. Ooh, this slide came out fun. So what is this library? We've been able to gather about 28,000 skills. This is changing every day because we update the library every 2 weeks. We're pulling in new emerging skills that we're pulling off of job postings through all the different public profiles and resume data that we're pulling in monthly. And we're refining this constantly. Customer requests, feedback, and then we have some heavy machine learning, which we've talked a lot about with having that human interaction. We have a very cool process of a human curation with an ontological approach where we're using that machine learning and natural language processing to build out this library and make it very effective. And we regularly deploy thematic reviews to focus on areas that there may be gaps and maybe not as much information there. And we got a cool announcement coming right at the end. So, ooh, another fun one. So how do we use this? So there's 3 main areas that we've worked with clients on in the consulting space around skills, and TA is one of the main ones where we've been focused, talent development, the learning development teams, and people analytics. And we'll give you a couple brief examples of where this is. So one in the TA space that we had a cool project to work with a client where they wanted to look at who's applying to our jobs and then what are we actually advertising for. So in the kind of dark blue there, you see this is where we had candidate data only, so skills that we saw coming through on those. The orange is where things that we had in our postings, and gray is where there's overlap. And so you can start asking questions like, why are we not asking for this skill? We should probably be asking for R in these. Why are we not? And then, do we really need to be asking for the Perl language? And it helps you measure what's important based on what the recruitment teams are looking for. Software talent, what are the roles? This is awesome in the people analytics team, and this is what we've done a lot of work on at United Health Group before I left there, is we have these job titles and job descriptions. They're very vague. How can we measure this and map the employees differently? So through some of our skills work, we were able to map employees by the skill sets, see how they naturally cluster together, what is rising in terms of what are the prevalent drivers of the skill sets within those positions, and then how do they naturally split apart. And once we start analyzing this work, not only can you get better comparison data for looking at different offices, different departments, different regions, we can take that same model, and if we focus in on one, the first category is machine learning, we can take that same skill cluster, analyze it throughout all of the other data that we have against competitors, and start to see, hey, talent acquisition, you maybe should be focusing on a handful of these companies if we want to expand our machine learning capabilities. We can get you some very similar profiles of people to start targeting. And we can also do this by pulling in graduates through university data, looking at different regions of what to target and whatnot. Another cool area is in talent development. Everybody's talked about reskill, upskill. This skills library helps identify where those are. And one of the ways that we worked with the client is they wanted to look at their competitors and say, hey, who's doing something in the similar space? So this is a skills map of this company X, which we obviously had to whitewash there, but bringing through, they were able to look at their 6 competitors, and they identified saying, hey, there's one competitor that really stands out that they're developing products in a space that we want to get into. We want to set some strategies to upskill our employees in this area. So what's differentiated? We were able to pull out what was different within that company, and the skills don't really matter at this point. This ends up being a lot of process skills that came through that made this company unique. And that helped them target which skills they should be focusing on to upskill their current employees. They also had conversations with their M&A team to say, maybe we should just acquire this company because they have the capability already. That's a really quick way to get talent and the skills that we need. And so just some very cool ways that we can analyze the skills data to bring some competitive insights. So the big announcement is we are opening up our library as an open source platform and making it freely available for educators, for consumers, and for businesses to use in any way that they would like, as long as you abide by the terms and conditions that we've set out. But this is going to be an open source free API that anybody can sign up for. This will be launching in a couple weeks, and we will make sure that everybody has the info. We'll work with Alan's team to get this data out, but this is what we're trying to do to say, hey, we think this is good for the world. We want everyone to be speaking that same shared language and to be making better connections across those job seekers, educators. We have some really cool partners on the higher ed side that are doing some cool things with the adult learner model, where they're taking students through and matching them more efficiently to coursework that they should be taking to upskill, and then getting them connected to the local labor market.
Yeah, so if your organization's thinking about skills, we'd love to get you this library to you via API. You can know someone's working on it all the time, keeping it updated. Obviously, we have other ways you can work with it, other APIs you can use to do things around it, but the library itself, we're going to just open source and put it out there. And this goes, again, to sort of that mixed role we play as a vendor, but also working for the public good, trying to solve some real issues in America around people's skills and the gaps between what they can do now and what you need them to be doing in your organization. So Emsi Skills coming soon. We'll get it out there for you. Thanks so much. Really appreciate being here.
Thanks, guys.